Hello everybody, welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing well and that you're all having a great day. So I decided to kind of tie this into another one of my videos where I spoke about the worst financial mistakes that I had ever made. I'm going to tell you a story, and it has a very good moral ending at the end of it. It has to do with probably one of the most frustrating anything I've ever had to deal with in my entire life. A couple of years ago, it is 2015. 2015. I was looking for new property ideas, new places to buy property. And I started reading a couple of articles that were talking about the new places around Eastern Europe that would give you good returns in the future. I saw a lot of things talking about Leipzig. I saw a lot of things talking about Prague. One of the things that stood out to me the most was Budapest. I had been interested in the idea of going to Budapest for quite a long amount of time, and I started looking up property prices, property things in general in Budapest, and I was pleasantly surprised at how inexpensive things were, especially when you compared the property prices to the amount of rental income people were getting on Airbnb. It really stuck out to me. I was like, okay, this is definitely something I kind of want to look into. So I decided to go on a trip. I went to Budapest. I was there for about a good week, give or take. A couple of days. I don't remember the exact amount of time. Who cares? The point is, came back home and was like, I think this is it. I want to start doing it. Got in contact with a couple of estate agents, and eventually one stuck out to me, and I said, okay, I'm going to use you, mainly because he spoke English. This was also years and years ago, once again, before Budapest became more popular. And then what ended up happening was that when you looked for an actual estate agent, they maybe spoke a couple of other languages or more Eastern European languages. But if they spoke English, it was very broken. This was the only person who spoke English. And I was like, well, there we go. Went to Budapest, was there for about a good 2 or 3 days. I saw about 3 or 4 different flats, and one of them really stuck out to me. It was in the 7th district. I think this is where the flat was. It was about a good 10-minute walking from, I think it's called Andraci, which is like the main 5th Avenue strip there. Studio apartment. I like to buy studios. This one in particular was absolutely amazing because Budapest and many European cities, but especially in Eastern Europe, they have incredibly high ceilings for their flats. This one, it was at least 5-6 meters tall. I wish I was half joking. The ceilings didn't make any sense in the studio. It was absolutely phenomenal. The walls had been painted, everything had been renovated. The floor looked completely beautiful, completely nice. Bathroom was nice. It wasn't incredible, but it was still pretty nice for exactly what it was. Kitchen was also cute, cool, amazing. Nothing really has to be done. And I spoke with the guy, and I asked, please ask they were already tenants living inside of it. I said, ask them how much they're paying. I think they were paying $380 per month, and I'll explain why that's also pretty incredible. And I said, second question, do you guys plan on staying here? And they were like, what? And I was like, how long would you like to live here? Because I like if you have a tenant already inside who's keeping the place looking nice, please stay for extra years. I don't mind getting the extra rental income. They told me for at least another 5 years, and I was like, good. This sounds amazing. Told the guy, I was like, I think I want this place. It sounds pretty good. The property was 22,000 euros. 24,000, 25,000 American, give or take roughly. I don't know in pound conversions. I'm pretty sure it was 22,000 euros. That was why I said the actual 380 per month was actually pretty great, because a lot of times if you have a place that's around 100,000, mathematically the rent works out. The 380 euros was totally fine, especially if you've never been to Budapest before. And I don't mean like the super touristy areas. If you kind of go like a bit, not in the outskirts, outside, whatever. The point may be, you can get places that have like 3-course meals for about a good 4 or 5 euros. I wish I was half joking. Budapest is very price good. If you are looking for an inexpensive place to go travel to, Budapest is probably it for you. So, went back home. The guy told me everything was working out. I had to start filling out paperwork. I had to start mailing things back and forth to give him essentially power of attorney. to be able to sign it for me, because the idea of me flying back to Budapest to sign something and then flying back just didn't work out in my mind. Everything went well. Everything went great. It took about a good month, 2 months to sign everything. I don't remember the exact amount of time. After the contract had been signed, he contacted me and said, "We have a little problem." And I said, "What do you mean little problem?" He said, "The tenants inside have decided to leave. I think the girl's mother was sick or something, or they wanted to, I don't remember what the situation was." So I was like, "That's fine." I said, "Can you go check on the place to make sure that it still looks really good? And also help me to find a new tenant?" He said, "No problem at all." He said, "What do you want to do with the new tenant?" I said, "Find the new tenant and help me put them in there." "Okay, cool, no problem." He went to the place, he took photos, pristine, beautiful, absolutely amazing. I can feel my blood pressure rising. About 2 or 3 days later, he told me he found a tenant, putting them inside. And I think eventually he told me that they were inside of the flat, and I was like, absolutely incredible. And I was like, cool, all the payments can start going to my Hungarian bank account. Absolutely amazing, wonderful, this sounds cool. I had put money onto my Hungarian bank account because the actual HOA fees, or the land fees, i.e. for water, blah, blah, the normal land fees that come associated with owning a flat or a condo, were, I think, like 17 euros per month, $20 per month. It was, if you've never been to, and I'm now, don't get excited, because there's definitely a story that comes with all of this. And I was like, that's totally fine, especially if they're going to be paying the exact same rent that the other people were. I mean, the land fees for 17, I think light and gas came out to like 15, 20 per month. It was something actually, it was just weird. So I had put money onto my Hungarian account as like a just in case. Should something happen when I go back to Budapest, I still have money on my account. Should my normal card get frozen when I go there, we're fine. 7, 8, 9 months later, I start getting letters in the mail from my bank written in Hungarian. Surprise! I don't speak Hungarian, so I was like, maybe it's nothing. Another letter, another letter, another letter. By the fourth one, I was like, okay. I took a photo of it, contacted the real estate agent, and I was like, hey, what is this? And he's like, oh, it says there's no money in your bank account. And I was like, no, I'm pretty sure there's money in my bank account. I was like, I put money in there. The guy's been paying rent for about a good 7, 8, 9 months. I'm pretty sure there's money in my bank account. This will all be smoothed over. I had to call the bank. Imagine how fun that is. If you've ever called from a foreign country or any other country, and like it has like that, like press 1 for English, press 2 for Spanish, that kind of thing. I think English was like number 5, and I was like, please say English. Please say English. Finally came up, hit the English button, spoke to someone at the bank, and I was like, yeah, I think there's a little problem. My bank account is showing 0 and or negative. And she was like, yep, there's no money in there. And I was like, no, I'm pretty sure there's money in there. Let me give you a call back. I contacted the estate agent, and I was like, hey, has the guy, so the way that these things work, for those of you who don't know, when you buy property and you have a rental management agency, they typically get the rent for you, they take out their portion of it, and then they send the rest to your bank account. This is how it's worked for me. It may work slightly different in other places, but this is how it's worked for me thus far in my life. It's like, hey, the guy's been paying, he's been paying rent, right? The rental agent went, rent? I don't know rent. And I was like, oh, okay, back up. It's like, someone's in my house, right? Yes. And he's paying rent per month. I was like, what does his contract say? There's no contract. And I said, okay. This guy, this agency, took my words literally. Remember earlier when I said, can you find someone to help me put into the flat? He found someone, and he put them into the flat with no contract. He just let someone live inside of the place. So I said, okay, you need to go over there right now and tell this person living inside there, hey, you need to be paying rent. It took about a good 3 weeks for a response email. And that's not the time that you really want for a response to come back to you, especially in a situation like that. Because your mind starts playing tricks on you. You have no idea what this person could be doing inside of your flat, what it's going to look like, scenarios are going all over the place. So he gets back to me, says he knocked on the door. The guy opened up the door, standing almost completely in the buff, if you know what that word means. And they had a conversation. He was like, hey, you got to pay rent. And the guy was like, I was wondering why I didn't pay rent for 7 months. And I promise you this all happened. Like this took good two to 3 years out of my life. By the time we got in contact with that guy and told him he had to pay rent, the situation was apparently the guy who was living inside of it was working for a construction company. The construction company owner apparently had contacted multiple different places to find different flats in different places for his workers. That's why the person living inside had no idea that he had to pay rent. He assumed that at some point it was coming out of his paycheck or something like that was coming from some sort of way. So we had to find a way to get in contact with this guy's employer, who was the head of the actual construction company, and be like, no one's paid rent. What the is going on? And this guy goes, okay, no problem. I will definitely pay you rent. 3 months later, we finally get in contact with him once again. And he goes, I'll start paying the rent. We have to start sending him the numbers, how much he had to pay in back rent and stuff like that. The first amount was, I think, 400 euros. And I was like, it's a start. It took about a good, I think, 6-7 weeks. He paid completely in full. Completely in full. And I remember it was one of the biggest reliefs of my entire life, because I had already given up at that point. I was like, okay, if I don't get any rent, whatever, it's totally fine. I'm okay with it. He paid everything. At that point, I told the rental agency, I said, do me a favor and get that guy out, because I don't want any of this happening anymore. They said, no problem. Contacted the guy. Took another month. Fair. If someone tells you to get out, you shouldn't be expected to leave that very same day. But I think the guy also had an idea. Things were a little awkward. Guy got his stuff and left. The person, that guy, who had been living inside of the flat, here's where the story gets interesting. I told the guy, I said, can you do me a favor and go back to the flat, take a couple of photos. I want to see what it looks like, if we need new paint, if we need so-and-so. The guy who had been living inside had moved in another person inside of the flat with him. Keeping in mind, this was a studio with very high ceilings. This guy created something called a gallery. If you type in like gallery Budapest apartment, it's pretty much when your ceilings are so high, you can create a second floor. This guy created a second floor in a studio apartment that was half of the actual studio. So imagine this room, half of it is staircase leading to another level, where they had put 2 twin-size beds, one here and one here. The estate agent told me the apartment smelled like old mold. Mold already smells bad. You know what old mold smells like? It smells terrible. He said the beautiful wood floors had been scuffed up to hell and back. Completely, he said it looked like they were just wearing ice skates, walking around on the floor all day. It looked terrible. They had added in a carpet, which they had stapled into the floor. There was a couch, which looked like the two people living inside of it had a very interesting lifestyle that involved them smoking things that they probably should not have been smoking. And the interesting part was that they just left all that stuff there. There was aluminum foil everywhere. I'm sure some adults know what that's for when it comes to smoking. And I remember being like, I don't know if he was lying to me. I don't know if he was just trying to like get a rise out of me after all of this had happened. And I was like, okay. So what does the bathroom look like? The kitchen, the tiles had been pulled off the wall, and there was white and black mold growing from within this place that was slowly coming out. He said part of the stove had been broken. I don't know who these people were. I don't know. The issue is that now I was at a crossroads, and I told this man in the nicest way possible. I said, the fact that you did not understand when I said, as a rental agency, as a rental selling agency, to put someone inside of it, you didn't understand that I meant to put someone inside with a contract and to make sure that I would be getting, because I'm not checking my Hungarian account every single day. When you get a rental agency, it's supposed to be signed, bam, cool, everything is good, you help me, you help me, I pay you kind of thing. I said, I'm sorry, but this is severing all ties between us because you are absolutely horrible. I didn't say that, but in not so many words, I kind of did. So I'm going to find someone else. I found another company who I checked around for a while. And I made sure that they had tons of reviews. Everything was really good. This is such a crazy story. You have no idea. That everything was really good. Everything was cool with them. That they had kind of checked out. I had to tell that guy, the first guy, to send me a copy of the key. And I made multiple copies. And I sent out a copy back to them just to make sure that I had the actual keys. Should something else crazy happen, that I could go there myself and open up the door. Send them the key. And they said, okay, no problem. They went to go have a look at it. They told me how terrible it looked. I said, that's fine. I know it looks terrible. Do me a favor. Hire someone or multiple people to clean the place. Clean the walls, clean the bathroom, clean the kitchen, clean everything. Throw out the mattresses, throw out the beds. Make the floor look nice. Get new curtains. When all that's dried, please get new paint. And I said, we'll work on it from there. We'll work on designing it, making it look nice, Airbnb-able after all of that. This company took at least 4 months in between each email to contact me. And I don't mean a soft 4 months. I mean like an actual 4 months to get back in contact with me. Reliving all of this PTSD is very strong right now. When I finally got to the idea that not only were they not going to help me, and I was probably never going to get anyone inside of it, I think I kind of let the place go in my mind. I didn't care anymore. I just kind of, three and a half years of going through that, it was far too much. So, the friend who I told you in another video was going around to different cafes and stuff like that, doing their Instagrams and their social media pages. We went to one of the cafes one day, and inside of that cafe, this is the craziest part, went inside that cafe, and the woman who owned the actual cafe, we were all talking, we were having tea together, we were all hanging out. She was from Budapest. I told her everything I just told you, and she's like, that's insane. 3 minutes later, a guy walks in, walks over to her, gives her a kiss, sits down with us, and I'm like, who is this person? It's her friend from Budapest who was an estate agent. He used to sell and buy flats the same exact way. Me and this guy got to talking, and I said, listen, I don't really know you from anybody else on the street. I know that my friend knows this woman, and you know her, and I had known this woman a couple of times. I said, hey, you want to do me a favor and look after my flat in Budapest? And he was like, sure, I've done it before. I gave this man, I didn't have it on me. About a week later, I gave this guy the key. This random person who I met in a cafe of my friend's employer did more for me in about a good 3 months than multiple companies that I had worked with. This guy went there, he swept, he cleaned up a bit. He even helped me get the mail out of the mailbox, which was also completely overflowing because no one had been there in so long, no one was doing anything for the actual property. He helped me figure out that not only was I behind on like water and gas and all these other bills, which is not really even that crazy because I think I owed the water company like $38 or something like that, something ridiculous. He helped me. This man helped me in so many different ways. Even crazier, he told me, and this is why it's very important. Remember I mentioned in another video when it comes to actually like how to avoid taxes and stuff like that? I found out that when you have a property in Budapest and you've owned it for over 5 years, this is why 2015 is very important. When you've owned it for over 5 years and you sell it, you pay 0 taxes to the Hungarian tax people. And I was like, that sounds wonderful. He's like, yeah. He's like, how long have you had it for? And I was like, I don't know. So I looked through all the documents and it was about 4 years and 2 or 3 months at this point. He looked after it. I told him, I was like, you can live in there for free. I don't even care. And he did. The entire time. Lived inside of it completely. And when we had about a good 2 months left before about a month left before the actual 5-year period, he found another, I don't know if it's the same. I don't know. I tell myself that it was different. He found a construction company who was looking to buy tons of flats in that area because they had a whole bunch of new projects that were going on. And they bought it. They bought the flat. I bought it originally for $22,000. I think we sold it for $50,000. I don't remember the commission I gave that guy. Worth every penny. And I mean, even then some, like absolutely worth it. He also went with me to the consulate one time to like go sign papers. Completely worth it. Like it was, the point is, the moral of the story is also even crazier, before all of this happened, like the crazy thing that's taking over the world right now since around February, March, you know what I'm talking about? I sold the flat like just a couple of months ago, and the people had a grace period of being able to, so when you sell it, when you sell the flat, or if you're buying it, you have to put a 10% deposit, and then you pay the rest of it when the actual due date comes. But there's a clause in all the contracts that says, after you've paid the 10%, if you simply can't do the other 90%, you can kind of opt out. When all of this madness started happening and the world was closing down, the people paid me completely in full, paid everything, and the lawyer got the money and sent me an email and said, I expected them to not pay. I was trying to figure out how to write you an email to tell you that you were not going to get the money. She said, you might be one of the luckiest people in the entire world. And then she transferred me the money. The moral of the story is, I don't know if there's I'm sure there's a moral somewhere in there. Look out for where you buy is maybe probably a good moral. Make sure that you and your estate agent, your real estate agent, your selling rental agent are on the exact same page, not a couple chapters ahead. If you find that English may not, or Spanish or not, or French or not, or German or not is not their first language, make sure you go over very clearly exactly what you want. Yeah, that was one of the craziest experiences of my entire life, because it logically just didn't make sense to me. I told this story to countless friends, and they all have the same idea. Who the heck just drops someone into a flat not thinking that they need a contract or that the owner would be okay with that? Like, you also live in a flat that you're probably renting. Why would you think that someone, it just logically just doesn't make any sense. So I was gonna say, don't follow in my footsteps. I don't know how to clearly define what the moral of this story is. I don't know. I don't think I can put an ending to this actual video. Just be aware of where you're buying, who you're buying from. Make sure you're on the same page. And by all means, just, I don't know. The fact that not only one person, but 2 people were living inside there and just smoking their life. Yeah, that is, I thought about this as I was making the other worst financial mistakes video. I hope you all enjoyed in some sort of way. I hope you all are having a great. I really don't know what the moral could be for this. Can you think of what the moral would be? I don't want to say don't buy in Budapest. Budapest is a fairly okay kind of rental selling market. There are definitely other places that are stronger. But for the value, I also doubled my money more or less in a couple of years because the property there was kind of going up. But I hope you all enjoyed. Hope you all are having a great day, a great morning, a great afternoon, a great evening, wherever you are, wherever you might be. I hope it's absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching and or listening. And I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.